Math.
Welcome to a practice test on grade 11, chapter 1, 2, and then also a little bit of trig. So equations, inequalities, exponents, and then a little bit of trig. Please download the test from the description of this video and then give it a try. And then you can watch the memo with me and see if you could answer these questions and get all your marks. Question 1, equations and inequalities. So guys, get used to this. All your exams from now on is going to start the same way as this practice paper. Normally with an easy trinomial, and then your second one, you will need the formula to solve this trinomial. But let's look at them and get the answers. Firstly, I want this in standard form, so I am just going to move the 20 to the left. So minus 20 equals 0, and now I can just break it up into the two brackets. Any method that you like, you learned this in grade 9 the first time, you can use the formula, you can use the white calculator, but the brackets will then be x minus 5, x plus 4, and therefore the first bracket is 0, that means x is equal to 5, or x is equal to minus 4. So where will I get my 3 marks? For the brackets, then for each answer. Okay, I don't need to test anything, there's nothing that's not applicable, so I just leave my answer like that. 1.2, so now, if you see this sentence, do not even attempt to put this in brackets, it's not going to work. So you can straight away just check, is this in standard form? If it is, I can just check a is equal to 7, b is equal to minus 3, c is equal to minus 9. Now I can sub into the formula, and remember, they give you marks for subbing in. You don't need to write the formula in terms of a, b, c, but you need to show them how you sub in. So it's going to be minus b, so I'm just writing it like that, plus minus the square root of b squared, so please remember your brackets, even on your calculator, and then minus 4a and then c. That minus is extremely important. If you forget it, it would be a math error, and then you would lose your marks. And this is all over 2a. Now I can just simplify one more, but most of the time they just want the final answer. So you do not even need to write the step. Let me just be complete for those who worked it out. So I can just say this is 3 plus minus square root 261 over 14. But the question stated clearly they want this in decimal form. So I need to then say, therefore, x is equal to 0.94 or x is equal to 1.37. So now remember, on the calculator, you do not have a plus minus button. So first type in the one with the plus, and then just press backspace, and then type in the one with the minus to get two answers. Okay, this is also 3 marks, 1 mark for actually subbing in, then the other 2 marks, each one for your answer. Question 1.3. Okay, so this is a surd equation, and they love asking this, so you will get this in every exam. Yeah, you'll notice it's 6 marks, so please don't skip a step and don't forget to end your question. Let me show you what I mean. Step 1, I'm going to move the 6 over. So x minus 4 equals x minus 6. Now I want to get rid of that square root, so I am going to square both sides. So it would look like this. And please remember the bracket on the other side, otherwise it is wrong. So x minus 4 is equal to, so I'm writing those brackets out twice, and then I am foiling it. So x squared minus 6x minus 6x plus 36. I want everything on the right, so there's only one x squared, but then I have a minus 6 minus 1, so that is minus 13x. On the other side, I will take this minus 4 over, it will become a plus 4, so that is plus 40. Now I'm checking what are the factors of 40 that would give me 13 if I add them, and that would be x minus 8, x minus 5. Okay, now I can say, therefore, x can be equal to 8, or x can be equal to 5. Now, very important, now I have 5 out of the 6 marks, because the last one is for actually testing if this is true. Okay, so I am then just going to show you how I would test. So let's test the 8, and I would say, okay, the left-hand side is 8 minus 4 plus 6, and I'm checking if it is equal to 8 or not. Okay, so 8 minus 4 is just 4, so square root of 4 plus 6, that is 2 plus 6, and that is indeed equal to 8. So that one works. I can underline it, and they know that's my answer. But I also need to check sometimes both are valid, sometimes none are valid, and then sometimes only one is valid. So I'm going to sub in the 5 there, and then check if it is equal to 5. So if I then do the root, this is root 1 plus 6. That's a 5 on the other side. That is not true, because root 1 is just 1, and 1 plus 6 is definitely not 5. So I can then cancel this equal and just say not applicable. Okay, so what does that mean? It means it is an answer to the trinomial, but in this specific sum, it does not work. Let's check where you would get your marks. So you would actually get a mark for moving the 6 over, then for getting the trinomial, then for solving the trinomial, then getting your 2 answers, okay, and then actually for choosing the one answer or saying not applicable. So this one would count 2 marks if you made it clear that you're only choosing the 8 as your answer. Question 1.4, so the inequality, okay, also one that's going to be in every single paper you're going to write. Now, I can see something looks wrong because the x squared is on the right. Normally with the inequality, you want the x squared, everything on the left, and the zeros on the right. So let's just get this in standard form. I'm going to break my own rule and keep the 0 on the left, but I'll fix it now. So this 4x I'm going to move over, and it becomes plus 4x. The plus 5 I move over, and that becomes minus 5. Now remember, I don't want this on this side, so I'm going to move it there. But the mouth of the crocodile, if you learn it that way, must point to the 0, or the arrow must point to the sum. So I would much rather like it in this way, because now I know, oh, I'm working with a smaller than sum. Now my brain does not need to work overtime to decipher what's going on. Now I can just solve this trinomial, and I know this is x plus 5, x minus 1, so equal to 0. Now, once again, there are a few ways you can go about this, but the easiest way that I found over all the years is the graphical method. Now, just check, this was a plus because there's nothing in front. It's actually a plus. So that means this is a happy face. If I draw in the two x-intercepts, this would be at -5, this would be at +1, because the critical values, guys, so you can write CV, and then the CVs is just the x-intercept. If this was a normal equation, what would the answer have been? And it would be -5 and +1. So that's how I see what are the x-intercepts of my little parabola. Now I must just check, is it bigger than or smaller than? This sign tells me it's a smaller than, so I'm going to color in below the line. And then my final answer would be x lies between -5 and 1. I can stop there. Now, they are not going to mark your sketch. Whichever method you use, as long as you get to the bottom answer, you will be fine. So let's check the marks. You will get a mark for getting this in standard form. So whether it's the first line I wrote or the second one, you will get a mark there. Then you will get a mark for your trinomial. And then it's weird, you'll get a mark if this and this is correct, and that only counts 1. And then if the format that you wrote it in is correct, you get the 4th mark. Okay, so guys, don't mess up the signs and put equal than if it's not equal than. It must be in that format. So just to tell you, there's an alternate format, which you can do it, the interval notation format. So then I can say, or x is an element of -5 to 1, both round brackets. So you can write it in either one of those formats. But make sure then you are comfortable with block brackets and round brackets and whatever is necessary for that sum. Okay, so that was 4 marks. Question 1.5, that's an exponential equation, one of the easier ones. Okay, so my printer printed it a bit weird, but remember it's actually x to the power 3/4. And to get rid of an exponent, because I want x completely alone, I just multiply with the reciprocal, so just 4/3. You can ask yourself, what must I multiply with to cancel this out? So to make the exponent a 1 at the end, what must I multiply with? So it is then 4/3, but whatever I do to the left, I must do to the right. So then it would look like that. Now, normally these sums tell you, do this without a calculator. So you need to convince your teacher. And the way to do that is just to write the 27 like that, and then I can see my exponent, the 3's will cancel out. So the answer is just 3 to the power 4, which is the same as 81. Okay, let's see where you would get marks. You would actually get a mark if they saw that you did the reciprocal. Then if they see in some way that you did not just type this in the calculator one shot, and then for your final answer. Okay, so please remember that middle step. Sometimes it counts a mark, sometimes it doesn't. 1.6. So this is now more the level 3, level 4 question because it gets a bit tricky. You must really look closely at what's going on. Now, this is the type of sum where you can do either the K method or just do it normally. For this purpose, in this video, I'm going to do the K method. So what is K then? Let's check. Okay, so the middle term has the negative exponent, which means it moves to the bottom. Now, I can choose to either do it this way or the K method. Like I said, I'm going to K, so let K equal 2 to the power x. Okay, so that means that's a K, that's a K. I can then say plus 8 over K minus 6 equal 0. Now I'm going to multiply everything by K and then shuffle it a little bit. So this is K squared plus 8 minus 6K equals 0. And then K squared minus 6K plus 8 equal 0. Okay, so I gave myself way too little space. So I'm just going on there. And the next step is to solve this trinomial. So what times what gives me 8? If I add them, it must give me 6. So this is K minus 4, and this is K minus 2 equals 0. Therefore, K equals 4 or K equals 2. But remember, the question didn't ask me what is K, it asked me what is x. So this is the place where I go back and I replace the K with its original value of 2x. I know 4 is the same as 2 squared, and in this side, it is 2 to the power 1. Now that I have both the bases the same, I can just drop the bases and say x is equal to 2, or then x is equal to 1. Let's now just check, where would you get your 6 marks? Okay, so you get a 6 marks for knowing that this minus x needs to move down. That will be your first one. Now, for going K method or just doing it normally, if you get this trinomial in standard form, then you would get your other mark. Now for solving in terms of K, then for going for the 2 x's, and then for your final answer. So 6 marks for that one. Guys, please try it. Don't just leave it open. Even if you don't get all 6, if you can get at least 3, then it is already a bonus for your test. Question 2, now we move over to exponents. Now remember, we taught you that there were two types of exponent sums. The one is when there's pluses and minuses. Then it's all about the common factor, giving each exponent its own base. And then the other one is if everything is multiplied or divided, then you would shift fact everything, then bring all the exponents to the same base. So let me show you what I mean. With the first one, I see that minus, and therefore I am going to give each exponent its own base. So that's going to look like this. The first one doesn't change. 5 times 2 to the power n minus 2 to the power n times 2 to the power minus 1. At the bottom, 9 times 2 to the power n, 2 squared. Okay, now I need to search for my common factor. There it is. And it's also at the bottom, so it will be able to cancel out. So I'm going to say 2 to the power n, and then what remains is 5 minus 2 to the power minus 1, all over, I'm just going to write the 2 to the power n in front, but there's a 9. And the 2 squared, I can change to a 4, just to make my life easier. Then the 2 to the power n's can cancel, and I can just check what is left over. So by this step, you can just type it in the calculator. So the top would be 5 times a half, which is just 4,5. So let me just write it as a clear comma, 4,5 over, and then this would be 36. Okay, just type that in the calculator, guys, and you will see this is 1 over 8 in the end. Your 4 marks, you would get it for splitting, giving each one its own base. Then for taking out a common factor, your final answer would be a mark, and then the other mark would probably be for just doing the calculations correct. Okay, so sometimes there's just an extra mark that they just give. If everything's correct, you get the extra mark. Okay. Now, 2.2. This looks very big. So the first step you are going to do is you are going to shift fact each of those 4 bases. So my calculator will tell me that's a 3 times 5 squared, and then minus n plus 3. The next one would be 9 times 5, so that would be 3 squared times 5, and then to the power n minus 2. Bottom one is just 5 squared. And then this one is 3 times 5 to the power n plus 3. Okay, so I can see I definitely don't have enough space for this question, but let's just try. So the next step is just to multiply the outside exponent with all the bases on the inside. So let's see how that would look. So this 3 would get a minus n plus 3. The 5, I would actually then multiply those exponents by 2. So that would be minus 2n plus 6. Remember, guys, there was a squared in the inside of the bracket. I must multiply it with the outside exponent. Same with the next one. It's 3 squared, so this would become 3 2n minus 4. And the next one, 5n minus 2. Okay, at the bottom, 5 minus 2n, and then 3n plus 3, and 5n plus 3. Okay, there's a lot happening, but now is the step where I can just make a big 3, and then plus all the top exponents minus the bottom exponent. So minus n plus 3, plus 2n minus 4, and then at the bottom, minus n minus 3. Okay, I just don't have space, so I would then just do the 5 there, but yeah, just plan your space a bit better than I did. Now I'm just going to plus the top exponent, so minus 2n plus 6, plus n minus 2, and then the bottom minus 2n becomes a plus 2n up there, and then there's a minus n minus 3 as well. Okay, guys, so now I'm almost at my final answer. I can see with the 3, there's a minus n plus 2n minus n, so that's actually just 0 n's. There's a plus 3 and a minus 3, so that also cancels, and then there's just a minus 4. That doesn't cancel. With the next one, with the 5s, I can see there's a plus 2n and a minus 2n, and a plus n and a minus n. So the n's once again cancel out. You will notice that is almost always what's going to happen, that the variables will cancel out, and then there's just a small exponent left. So if I look at the numbers, there's a plus 6, minus 3, minus 2, and that just gives me a 1. So the final answer for this question is 5 over 81. Now, where do you get the 4 marks? You get a mark for shift factoring, then for simplifying, then for making a big base and bringing all the exponents towards it, and then for your final answer. So 4 marks for that question. Question 2.3. So now this is just all about foiling. Okay, I am going to write an extra step, so you just follow where I am, but you can straight away go to the second line that I'm going to write. Okay, so what's actually happening here is you are saying root 3 times root 3. I know this is just 3. You can say square root 9, but it's just 3. Then if I multiply the outers, this would give me plus root 3 root 5. Okay, and then if I multiply the inners, this gives me minus root 3 root 5, and then minus root 5 root 5. So you can check that the middle 2 actually cancels out. So the answer to this question is just 3 minus 5, so minus 2. So it looks like a very complicated question, but it's actually very simple. Where would you get marks? You would actually get a mark for getting that part of the FOIL correct, and then for the 3 and for the 5. Okay, so like I said, you do not even need to write the middle step. I would still advise it so they can just see you didn't forget about the root 3 root 5. You actually knew that it was just minusing out and the answer was 0. 3.1. So we're getting to trig. If negative 5 sine theta equals 4, and theta is an element of 90 to 270, determine with the aid of a diagram and without the use of a calculator the value of something. Okay, step 1, I want sine theta alone. So I'm going to say sine theta. The 4 was there, so I'm just dividing by the 5. Okay, so that is always step 1. Get sine, cos, or tan completely alone. Now I need to identify the quadrant. Okay, so I can see sine is negative because of that minus. And now I need to check which quadrant would a sine be negative in. So it's that one and that one. Now I need to check the other restriction they give me, and that says from 90 to 270. So always choose the quadrant that you ticked twice. So I know I am going to draw a triangle in quadrant 3. So always away from the cross, back to the x-axis. I always teach my students, butterflies, not diamonds. Okay, so you will never draw one of those 4 triangles in this type of question. It always needs to be able to form a butterfly. So please focus there, otherwise you don't know what is hypotenuse and opposite and all of those. Just focus with this question. So I can put theta there. We know that it's that reflex angle there, but for this question, it's really not important. Now it's 4 over 5. So remember, saw ka toa. Saw is then for opposite over hypotenuse. And a hypotenuse can never, ever, ever be a minus. So the minus moves to the 4. Now the next step is Pythagoras. So I want to work out what the adjacent side is. And it says adjacent squared is equal to hypotenuse squared minus opposite squared. So always the hypotenuse minus the other one. Okay, so I'm just going to call this x. So x is equal to the square root of 25 minus 16, which is 9. So x is equal to plus or minus 3. Now, very important, check in which quadrant you are working. In the third quadrant, we moved left of 0. So because we moved that way, it should be a minus on the x, and we moved down. So that's why there's a minus on the y. So I need to choose, is it plus 3 or minus 3? We moved in a negative direction, so it's definitely minus 3. Now I am finally ready to answer their question. So I know they asked me for 5 cos theta. So let me just write it, and then I'll sub in minus tan theta. So I'm going to write the 5 as 5 over 1 times cos, and cos is ka, adjacent over hypotenuse, and tan is toa, opposite over adjacent. So let's fill in. Adjacent over hypotenuse will tell me this is minus 3 over 5. Then I'm going to put the 3 over 1. Now this would be opposite over adjacent, so minus 4 over minus 3. Now the 5s can cancel in this fraction, the 3s can cancel in this fraction, and now I just need to be very careful with the minuses. In the first term, there's just a minus 3 left. In the next one, there's a minus in front, a minus 4, and then with the 3, there was also a minus. So there's actually 3 minuses, which would let it stay a minus. And the final answer is minus 7. So guys, please just check all the minuses. Remember, if it's an odd number, 1, 3, 5, 7, then the answer remains a minus. If it's an even number, then the answer will become positive. The second last question, 3.2. So this is trig reductions. Now, I just need to identify the quadrants, and then I can reduce this to just say it's a plus 10 or a minus 10, and then I will cancel out. So when you do this question, please, grade 11s and grade 12s, always draw your cast diagram. So just a very simple one. I know this is 1, 2, 3, 4. I know this is CAST, and I also know this is just theta. This is 180 minus theta. This is 180 plus theta, and this is 360 minus theta. Now I can start to check each one and then how I can reduce it. Now I can see tan squared. The bracket is the wrong way around. So I don't like that because I don't have a quadrant like that. If it was just a plus, I could swap them, but now I can't. So remember, the rule here is you can add 360 at any time to any of these brackets. And if I add 360, this would become plus 180. Now I can see, okay, that's the third quadrant. Because remember, if there's a plus, I can actually switch it without having a penalty or anything. So that is tan in the third quadrant, which would just stay positive. So I'm going to actually write it like this, so that you would see if it was a minus, the minus would go in front of tan. But in this case, it is actually positive. With the next one, remember the rule, I can subtract 360 at any time, and 540 minus 360 then actually becomes 180 minus x. That is second quadrant. Sine is positive in the second quadrant, so I can just say this is sine x. At the bottom, I can now clearly see this is second quadrant, so that's just sine x. And then that one, remember, I can plus 360, and that would just basically cancel that one. So then it is just a minus x. Minus x is the fourth quadrant, so minus tan x. Now I can just cancel, if it is possible, and the sine cancels. This tan actually cancels one of the squared's tans, and the final answer, the minus, is still there, so just minus tan x. 6 marks. Where would I get my marks? Oh, I forgot to mark the previous one. Sorry, guys. Let's just mark the previous one quickly. So for 4 marks, I would get a mark for my triangle. I would actually get a mark for Pythagoras, and knowing that that's correct, then for subbing in, and then for your final answer. Okay, so all of those steps are important. For the next one, 6 marks. Now with these questions, you actually get a mark for each one of your reductions. So you get a mark there, 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 and there. Then for your final tan, and then for that minus, you'd probably get the 6th mark. Okay, so a very important question. If you know your work, you can get through this fast and have time to spend on other questions. So I love this kind of reduction questions. It actually saves you time if you studied hard. Now, the last question, prove the following identity. Okay, so remember, I just have 2 identities in grade 11, the tan identity and then sine squared plus cos squared. I hope you know them off by heart now. Let's see how I would apply this. So it's an identity. I need to choose a side. I'm going to go for left-hand side, and then I can immediately change the tan to sine over cos. So I'm going to say sine theta over cos theta, and then plus cos theta, just keeping this the same, 1 plus sine theta. Okay, now I am at the LCD part of my question. Because I'm adding fractions, I need to get the denominators the same. So I'm going to say LCD is equal to cos theta, 1 plus sine theta. Now remember, I need to multiply the fraction with the part of the LCD that it did not have. Sounds like a mouthful, but it's actually not that bad. So I'm just writing the full LCD at the bottom. And then with the sine theta that was there, I can see, okay, but that actually needs the 1 plus sine theta. So I'm just going to add it up top, 1 plus sine theta. Then the cos theta, I am just going to multiply with the other part of the LCD, which was the cos theta. And now if I simplify this, I will see this is going to be sine theta plus sine squared theta plus cos squared theta all over the same LCD. So just cos theta 1 plus sine theta. And then if you know your identities, I forgot a square there. If you know your identities, you would see this is then sine theta plus 1 over cos theta, and then the bracket 1 plus sine theta. And we already spoke about it. If it's a plus in the middle, you can actually swap them without any penalty, so they can cancel out. Remember to leave your 1 there as a placeholder. And then I can see, therefore, left-hand side equals right-hand side. 4 marks. Let's see where you would get it. You would get a mark for changing the tan, then for getting the LCD correctly, then for identifying that this sine squared plus cos squared is just equal to 1, and then for proving that it is equal to the right-hand side. Okay, guys, so that was practice test 1 for term 1, grade 11. I hope it went well. If it didn't, please go and watch this video again. Make sure where we gave marks and what you can learn. This is not so difficult. Just put in the time. Go back to your textbook, practice a little bit more. You can do really well in this test if you just practice enough.
If this video helped you, please like and subscribe.
JJ Math.